All of our health issues are just one physical manifestation of a spiritual disease that we're dealing with. If we ever really want to be healthy, we have to look at that spiritual aspect. I went to grad school, I got my PhD in molecular biology. I studied biochemistry and molecular biology for over a decade. And what I learned from that is that there's no cure, there's no bandage solution that is going to bring us true health without addressing the root causes that are happening at the spiritual level. So let's get into it. And I'm going to use cancer as an example. And I'm going to start off by explaining how a healthy body works. So in a healthy body, it's a community of cells, and they're all arranged into specific tissues and specific organs, and they're all working together, and they're communicating with each other, and they're integrating signals from the environment, and they know who they are, right? They have like their certain gene expression and their certain role that they're playing within the body system. Through cell division, there are generations of these cells, and they're born, they live out their purpose, and then they pass on. And that's just kind of like humans, right? As part of humanity, we're all part of these generations of humans that are born, we live out our purpose, and then we pass on. And trauma and mutations are just part of life, right? There's this balance of the light and the dark, and we have to be able to handle and process our trauma and process those mutations in order to return to health. And we do that through cycles of rest, cycles of clearing out the toxins. The cells around us in our community can help us do that. And the immune system is on the lookout for that stuff and is ready to act upon it. And a healthy cell that is regularly clearing out all of the toxins and stuff like that is not going to accumulate enough mutations for cancer to happen. And the problem starts arising when those cycles of rest and clearing out are no longer happening. And it's kind of a rejection of that which is, right? It's a rejection and trying to control. It's not being grateful for what you already have, and instead feeling like you have to keep on bringing more in, like there's never enough, and you have to keep hoarding and hoarding more. And that's what metabolic dysfunction is. And metabolic dysfunction is a core component of most cancers. And the thing is that instead of accepting life for what it is, being born, living your purpose, and then passing on, and being grateful for that and finding fulfillment in that, these cancer cells are trying to cheat that system and trying to be immortal. But that's not possible. Impermanence is like the one truth of reality. Like everything is change, and like all spiritual practices that are in touch with that like teach us that, and it's evident in the world around us. And the cancer cells will eventually die. They can't just accumulate forever, because then the body system that they're still in will pass away. And the next level happens when the cancer starts to hide and evade the immune system. So remember how I said that the community helps to keep all the cells in check and performing their roles properly? Well, cancer starts to separate and isolate, and it starts to make sure that the cells around it can't play a role in rebalancing it. Does this start to kind of sound like narcissism, patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy? And I have to be careful with how I say this, but I think this is the equivalent of getting rid of spiritual leaders and healers, and the erasure of indigenous ways of life. And at the same time, the body has to be kind of like numb and distracted in order for that to happen. Because if you were to be able to really look inward and feel what's going on in your body, then you would know that you need to make changes. And so that's kind of like the bread and the circuses, right? We're provided with excess of entertainment, of food, of all these things, alcohol, all kinds of things to be addicted to, propaganda and isolation, so that we're not communicating with the body as a whole, and instead we're just kind of afraid and like, we don't know what's going on. And I think neurodivergent people are part of that like immune system, and they're kind of like the medicine. And so I do think that them being ostracized and those things being called disorders and pathologized is a main part of that. And then the next stage, once the cancer has grown enough and established itself, is that then the tumor needs to be sustained by bringing in more resources, right? There's not enough resources in the surrounding tissue to sustain the tumor anymore. And so it starts to do a thing called angiogenesis, which is where it brings in blood flow and starts to extract energy from the whole body. And this is what colonization is. And then there's also this metastasis of it spreading to different areas all around the world. But the thing is that cancer is inherently unsustainable. Once the whole body has been affected and everything is being drained and you have like accumulation of toxins and the rest of the body is fatigued, right, because it's not getting its fair share of energy, then everything starts to break down and die. And we can see this happening as like climate change, global conflict, this sort of separation between the ultra wealthy and the rest of humanity. And I am far from being the first person to have these ideas and to see what's going on. Like, look at any prophecy from any like spiritual or religious tradition around the world. Like, this is science, this is spirituality. It's evident that this is what's happening. And we are being presented with a choice. And I think a lot of us are feeling this. We can either succumb and pass away, and that's just it, or we can move towards healing. And an important thing to realize is that the mode of healing is very important. Some people think of healing from cancer as just getting surgery and chemotherapy and just hoping that it doesn't come back. But the thing is that traumatizes the body. It causes all this damage and all this scarring, and there's no guarantee that the cancer won't come back. In fact, most of the time, it eventually does. So if we learn to recognize this as the spiritual disease that it is, and we learn to find and uproot it from the roots, then we can have lasting change. Then we can move into true healing and a new era of humanity. And as the cells that make up humanity, that happens within each of us. You know that term, as within, so without? The changes that happen within each of us ripple out into the communities around us. And then when we're acting as collective with that collective power, then we can impact the whole environment and the whole world. And so each of us needs to reclaim that power. And we do this by prioritizing rest, clearing out toxicity, turning inward, reawakening who we are, reconnecting with our community and the natural world around us, and becoming a place where cancer can't thrive. And the good news is that this is literally in our DNA. This is in how we evolved to be in connection with each other and with the world around us. Like fasting and natural medicines, those can put cancer into remission, and miracles can happen, but they require devotion and they require belief. And I would never tell a cancer patient not to undergo surgery, not to do chemotherapy. Like, that's not my place. But I'm saying that if you don't have those other root solutions in place, then the bandage solutions are not actually going to bring healing. So all of this is what it means to create your own reality. All of this is what it means to be the light in the darkness and to be the change that you want to see. We need to tap back in to what's inside of us and the knowing that how we evolved to live in this world is enough. Learn about the history of how we got here. Learn about your ancestors. Learn from all these spiritual leaders around the world who have been suppressed. We need to start supporting them and start upholding them as the beautiful immune system that they are. Learn to appreciate the seasons of life. Learn to get through discomfort and tap into the programs within you to make it to the other side and live your life how you want to live. There's so much beauty around us and within us, and miracles are possible. We got this. I love you.